Glad to have you back. Like we told you before we went on that break, Dangote Refinery will be commissioned today. We're looking at how that will solve Nigeria oil and gas problem. And I have joining me right here in the studio is an energy analyst and, of course, Executive Director of CGID, Dr. Toby Oluwatola. Glad to have you.
Thank you, Yusuf. Glad to be here.
Yeah, finally, after almost 10 years, we're having Dangote Refinery set to come up on stream. How would this solve Nigeria lingering oil and gas sector problem?
First of all, a very big congratulations to Mr. Aliko Dangote and to Nigerians and Africans at large, because this is a big feat and congratulations are well deserved. How will it solve Nigeria's lingering fuel problems? Number one is that it will, to a large degree, debottleneck this importation racket that we have experienced over the last few decades, since the refineries have not been able to work properly. So that in and of itself is important. Now, to whether or not it will meet the demand, the fact sheets that Dangote Refinery released tells us that they will meet 100% of the demand. But we don't know that for a fact because we are not sure what the demand is. What used to be PPPRA, now Ministry, now the Midstream and Downstream Regulatory Authority, tells us that on one day that it's 60 million barrels, on another day that it's nearing 90 million barrels.
Just to look at the demand, if you look at the demand, there's a graphics. If the director can quickly put it on the screen, the Dangote Refinery is about 650,000 barrels per day. If you quantify it in terms of liters, that is over 700 million liters. And according to the report, our current consumption rate is about 68 million liters. Though that has been questioned, it's debatable whether we're actually consuming that large amount of fuel in Nigeria. So do you think this has effectively brought to an end the issue of fuel importation?
So I have to correct something, that 650,000 barrels per day, each barrel produces about 170 liters of an aggregate of products, about 9 products. Yes. Out of that, about 43% is PMS, yes, which is the fuel that we use. So the Dangote Refinery at capacity will produce about 50 million liters of PMS a day. So that's still less than your 68 million. But then if you think about other refineries that we do have, there is the 40,000 barrels that the Chinese are doing. There is the one that Walter Smith has done. Yeah. So there are a few refineries. So we believe, and we actually also believe that the actual consumption of Nigerians is more in the neighborhood of 30 million, not 68 million. The rest is really just smuggling to neighboring countries because it's so cheap here. So it's people make a lot of money, almost 100% profit by just taking it across the border and selling for not even just 100, close to 300% profit by just smuggling it across the border. So we know that the demand is probably much lower. So we know that it will meet the demand. The question is whether or not there will be bottlenecks created to allow some private actors or public sector actors to hoard some of it, such that they still create artificial scarcity that keeps the prices high.
That's another thing. Okay, Dangote Refinery, like we have here, 650,000 barrels per day. If you put Port Harcourt, Warri, and Kaduna refineries together, you have 5,000 barrels per day. That is a huge number there. So if we can actually harness all of this together, do you think the issue of fuel scarcity that we experience regularly, is it going to be a thing of the past?
I think that even if the refineries, the 3 refineries don't work in the future, the Dangote Refinery alone is enough to put fuel scarcity in our past. And remember that in 2007, 2008, Dangote tried to buy the Kaduna and Port Harcourt refinery, and he did buy it from the Obasanjo administration, only for the next administration to reverse the sale. So this is a story of perseverance, of someone who tried to do it by buying the refineries, couldn't do it, and then went to create his own. But what ultimately ought to happen with even these Nigeria's refineries is that we ought to just sell them. We keep spending billions and billions of dollars fixing them, and they never get fixed. And there are people who
that's another issue that we'll
huge
touch on.
salaries.
Absolutely. That's another issue that we'll touch on in the course of this discussion. But I'm being told now that my guest, Professor Yinka Omoregbe, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, and of course, President, Nigeria Association of Energy Economists, former National Legal Advisor of NNPC, is live with us from Benin City. Good morning. Good to see you, ma.
Good morning. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you loud and very clearly. You have been in this sector. You understand the sector very well. You were in NNPC as the National Legal Advisor. Now we are seeing a new refinery about to be unveiled in Nigeria, Dangote Refinery. They must talk about Dangote Refinery. From your experience, do you think this will solve Nigeria oil and gas problem?
Well, I think I'm sure you're talking about the downstream problem. What I can say is that we're happy that there's another refinery that's coming here, coming on stream. Whether, in fact, it's going to focus on Nigeria. So, I mean, it is well situated and it can sell in many different places. So, but there's no doubt that it's going to help to an extent. But whether it will solve it, we have complex issues. We still have those 3 refineries we have to sort out. We have the problem of the downstream, in which there is a subsidy that has not gone away, notwithstanding the fact that the new regime under the Petroleum Industry Act does not contemplate a subsidy still in existence. So I think that there are a lot of things that still remain. What we have is Dangote has come in, and essentially, from the look of things, Dangote can make a lot of money even if he doesn't sell to us.
Interesting there. There's something you touched about. I was coming there, the issue of subsidy. Do you think this will also, in a way, end the subsidy regime? Because what we know about the issue of subsidy is that because we are an oil-producing nation, but again, our crude oil are not being refined here. But if we have the opportunity to refine them here, do we need again to continue to pay subsidy?
Well, the consensus is that we don't need a subsidy at all, but the subsidies does not affect Dangote's refinery, to the best of my knowledge, because he's selling essentially at import parity. So he's not affected by it. Did we need the subsidy in the first place? Who knows? Do we need the subsidy now? No. Have we needed it for years? No. It's been so opaque and it has always lacked clarity. Nobody knows who or where the money is going. What we do know is that we are subsidizing the entire region because our oil is just flowing out and is the cheapest in the region. So of course it makes sense for anybody to bring in Nigerian oil and sell it outside. So it is a very unsatisfactory and sad situation that we have right now. So,
okay, Prof, what does this speak about the federal government? If an individual can actually put a refinery together, why is it difficult for us as a government to even, work on the 3 refineries that we have in Warri, Port Harcourt, and of course, Kaduna? We've spent so much on turnaround maintenance for a very long time. But an individual is actually doing it and we're all celebrating it. Why is it difficult for government to even put one together?
Well, I would answer and say give NNPCL a chance. NNPC and NNPCL are supposed to be 2 different concerns. One, the latter, that is the limited liability company, is now supposed to be acting in alignment with commercial interests. No commercial interest can allow for a subsidy. So I would say that, I can't even say the jury is out. I would say that the case has not even been heard yet. Let's wait and let us see what they can do now that they're supposed to align with commercial interests. But generally speaking, government is not good, not just the Nigerian government. No government is actually really good at business. That is not what governments have been established to do. And they haven't done very well. They've been interfered with, that is NNPC, massively from the onset. And that is why we have that's why we're where we are today.
Okay, back in the studio now, Dr. Toby, the issue of you listening to her, you may want to say one or two things.
No, I think she hit the nail on the head that the subsidy is a bit of a scam that needs to go regardless of what happens with Dangote, and hopefully if we have a much more open playing field in the downstream sector with the regulator doing its job as a regulator, then we will have a bit more freedom. Right now, NNPC has the right of first refusal to 20% of the production of Dangote. Hopefully, NNPC Limited plays on a level playing field with all other businesses that have invested in the downstream sector with petroleum stations across the country, and everybody can play on a level playing field to purchase the fuel that is coming out of Dangote cement, and it doesn't have to export to other countries.
No, interesting. There was something Prof pointed out. The fact that Dangote may just be open to sell to the rest of Africa, not necessarily to Nigeria alone. What does it now mean?
If the terms of his deal with Nigeria don't work, he will sell outside. That's why. So right now, the 20% that NNPC has a right of first refusal for is mostly going to be a swap from crude to product. Absolutely. So if the terms don't work for him, he will sell outside, because if for some reason some government comes and wants to force him to sell in naira at a lower exchange rate or something of that nature, that makes him want to have to, then he's going to have a tough decision to make to go sell in other markets. But that said, we also have to recognize that it's a benefit that we now have. Whereas we used to have to import these products, now the net value of the increased productivity alone of this refinery is a net value to Nigeria. So even if we're exporting is a good thing. It's a great thing. We export the money that we make, we use it to focus on other things that require focusing in Nigeria. And beyond beyond the PMS, there are lots of other products, 9 other products that come out of this. There's bitumen, there is diesel, there is jet fuel, there's aviation fuel, there's natural gas.
Absolutely.
So the net effect of all those products could really be stimulating for the industry, not just Dangote businesses, but the industry along that entire Lekki corridor, but in Nigeria as a whole.
Interesting. Prof, let me get back to you now. We are talking about the issue of Dangote Refinery. Of course, I've seen live pictures there from Lagos, there from the venue of Dangote Refinery and Petrochemical Company live in Lagos. Prof, another issue is the issue of our consumption level, our fuel consumption. According to the figures we got from the government agency, Nigeria consumes about 68 million liters of PMS per day. Daily, that's every day. But given these figures that we have, many analysts have also said that this may not really be realistic figure. Do you think that the Dangote refinery now coming up on stream with an installed capacity of about 65,000 barrels per day, which is over 50 million liters, do you think this will in a way solve our consumption problem?
I would say time will tell concerning that, because like I say, we're not their only market. But so I'll say it's welcome. I'll say it's good that we are getting a ready source of diesel. But I think that, and also it's obviously very, very good that all the different other products from refineries are coming out. It is very sad that we have had 4 refineries that are not functional. But I think that we need to also remember that there's an energy security issue that is involved in what we're talking about. So it's good to rejoice and say, oh yes, we have one big massive refinery, but it's not actually in the interest of the government to be dependent on one big refinery that is within the country. So I'm saying that there are myriad issues. Again, it is not a very, very simple issue, but do we rejoice that there's more fuel to be had? Yes, we do. Do we know what the impacts will be? Not yet, really. We really need to see how it will work in operation.
Talking about that, before I let you go, Prof, let's look at it. Let's bring it down now to the lower level. Will this solve the issue of perennial fuel scarcity that we usually experience in the country?
Well, it should, but then, I mean, if a lot of the production is going out into the West African countries, it might not. There's a huge market. I think that where you have a mighty mega refinery like that, you can be sure that in its financials and its projections, it has not just projected on selling products to Nigeria. It has projected on Nigeria being the hub, at least West Africa, if not Africa. So it has a huge market. If we are attractive to them, I am more here. Who knows?
Professor Yinka Omoregbe, former National Legal Advisor of NNPC, former Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice in Edo State. I must thank you for your time on Business Daily today.
Thank you.
I'm back in the studio. Dr. Toby is still here with me. Let's look at how this will benefit the independent marketers.
That's a good question. So I think it would benefit independent marketers because finally we can have a source of goods that is transparent to everyone, that is not opaque like the subsidy regime we've had since. And hopefully there's still challenges. Number one challenge that we still have to face and deal with is the challenge of transportation. Because transporting the fuel, we all know that right now we still mostly depend on trucking to transport goods, products to around the country. We do have facilities to transport via pipelines to depots around the country, but most of those depots, most of those pipelines have not been utilized in a long time. So we still have to fix those depots. We still have to fix that infrastructure and upgrade that infrastructure to make sure that we get all the benefits that we can from this process. And one more thing I have to stress is that we cannot have a repeat of what we've always had, where NNPC has a monopoly on the downstream sector.
Absolutely.
There's got to be, even if NNPC Limited is going to be playing a role and buying a lion's share of the fuel that comes out of Dangote refineries, it needs to be just one more player in the market as opposed to the one single arbiter from whom all the various others have to go get, because then you create a bottleneck that becomes an NPC.
Absolutely. Dr. Toby Oluwatola, energy analyst and of course executive director of CGID. I must thank you for your time on the show. This is the beginning. We'll keep talking about this till of course the issue of oil and gas problem in Nigeria is solved. Thank you so much.
Always
for your time.
Always a pleasure talking to you, Yusuf.
Thank you so much. And with that is the wrap on Business Daily today. Join us tomorrow for more. I am Yusuf Akogu.